Hey, so first off, I'm not a YouTuber, as I almost fall on my booty. Hey, I'm not here for the most likes or subscribers. If you want to, great, love it. You know, you guys can leave comments. I do love reading the comments, but what I want to do is I want to share the story behind this awesome fish that I caught on the San Juan River back in September of this year, or last year, I guess, September 2024. So it's mid-January, I'm in Nashville, Tennessee, and it's 14 degrees outside. So what better thing to do than to record a video, because you can't golf, you can't fish, it's too cold to do much of anything. So I just wanted to put this on video. Oh, and by the way, yes, I know, my Christmas tree is still up. Don't be hating. I just like the Christmas spirit a little bit longer. Has nothing to do with being lazy. Don't be hating on me. So when I posted this picture on social media like Facebook, Instagram, and some other pages, I got a lot of comments on it, right? So people were like, oh man, where were you? What were you using? You know, what gear, what tippet, what fly, all that stuff. As I started kind of telling more people of the story behind the fish, they were like, man, not only that information, but a little bit more, you should really think about putting this on video or getting it out there because it's a cool story. So that's what I'm doing. You know, it's got somewhat of a spiritual, mystical type of healing aspect to it as well, which is the part that I really like. So go back a little bit, the end of 2022, my wife and I lost our older son, Christian. He was 23 years old, lost him to a car accident. And there's actually another really cool fish story tied to that because Dad and I, my father-in-law, AKA Cowboy Don, the first trip that we took, a fly fishing trip, after losing Christian, we went to the Caney Fork River, which is just outside of Nashville. It's not too far. It's about an hour and a half from us, from where we live. And it's our first trip out. And I really wasn't planning on fishing that day. I was kind of manning the oars, letting Dad fish. It was just nice to be out. But the flow and the wind was just perfect. And it was like slow enough that I could fish, you know, as well. So I just kind of tapped the oars here and there. On my third cast, I ended up catching this fish, and I'll put a picture of it. One of the bigger rainbows that I've ever caught. In fact, when I posted it, TWRA, which is Tennessee Wildlife Resource Agency, they reached out to me and they said, hey, this is one of the biggest rainbows that we've seen come out of this river in recent years, if ever. I mean, so it's a big fish. And the Caney Fork, it's not known for producing massive fish like this. Now, the river's got huge browns in it, bigger than that probably. But rainbows, I mean, that's a huge rainbow for that river. It was pretty awesome. It was definitely a kind of spiritual healing moment. So fast forward to September of 2024. And Dad and I are on the San Juan. Now, we like to go to the San Juan River several times a year. It's just I just love it out there. I mean, if you've ever been out there, you kind of know what I mean. It's so unique because it's in the high desert, right? You got this beautiful, cold, freezing river running through a high desert area. So it might be 100 degrees, but it's 50 degrees in the water. And it's just beautiful. It's just, well, it calls to my soul. It just speaks to me. So I love going out there. So this particular trip, Dad got pretty sick. He had severe vertigo. Like he could hardly get out of bed several days. And I felt so bad because we drive 24 hours to get to this place, right? And we stay out there, you know, a week, 10 days. And we fish from early morning till it's dark. But there were several days that he could not even get out of bed. I felt horrible. So I went by myself. It was late afternoon and it was beautiful. The sun is behind me. It's lighting up the canyon walls and the cliffs and the rocks and the shadows and the reflection off the water and the glitter. It's just something that you never forget, that imagery. I'm sure some of you may relate to this a little bit, because if your wife says, hey, I need this done, or hey, pick this up, and if I don't write it down, 5 or 10 minutes go by, I might forget it. You know what I mean? But this type of imagery, it's just hard to get out of your mind. It's just always there. And by the way, there wasn't a soul out there. There was not one person. It's late in the afternoon. It's probably, well, I say late, it's not that late. It's probably 3 o'clock. But there's not a person I can see. If you know the San Juan, I'm fishing well below the cable hole, but I can see the dam and there's not a soul in sight. And I look downstream as far as you can see, there's nobody. That's a rarity for the San Juan River. It's usually very busy. So when I'm by myself, fly fishing or golfing or whatever, I'm always talking to Christian. It's just something I do. It's a healing aspect for me. I just love it. And so this day I'm talking to him, you know, just missing him. He's such an outdoor enthusiast. He would just have loved to go out there to experience this. So I'm working my way up. I'm fishing my 10-foot G Loomis NRX Plus 4-weight rod. And I use very long leaders and very long tippets. I'm a very technical nerd when it comes to fly fishing, especially tailwaters, technical tailwaters, which is one of the reasons that I excel at doing that, because these rivers can be kind of tricky. These trout can be pretty snotty. You have to be a little technical. I was fishing 6X that day, so my leader's probably a total of, 16 feet. I was fishing 2 flies. One was 22, one was 24. I'll show some pictures of the flies I was using. Top one was an emerger pattern, and the bottom one was just I can't say the name of it because I'll get bleeped out. It's a red midge that I tie, so I'll show you pictures. So I'm fishing, I'm working my way upstream and catching good fish. This day was phenomenal. It's like one of those days. Talking to Christian, catching good fish, nothing massive, up till now. It was maybe the biggest was 18 or 19. That's a good fish. I'm working my way up, and there is a submerged piece of wood or a log that I'm kind of working my way up to, and I'm fishing outside of it because there's a little bit deeper cut there. Catching a couple fish there, and I'm working my way up, and I notice that piece of wood or log moves a little bit. And I'm like, oh, hey, baby. Holy cow. That's not a log. That's not a piece of wood. That's a fish. It's just one of those dark, massive fish is sitting there. And I'm like, oh my goodness. So I kind of back up a little bit and I'm watching it. And these fish, sometimes will just stick on the bottom, man. I mean, like, they won't move. They're like glued there. You almost got to walk up to them before they run off. But not this guy. It was just every 10 seconds it was turning and feeding. And I'm like, hey, I got a chance at least getting a good presentation to this fish, possibly hooking it, because it is feeding. So make a first cast above it, nice little mend, and it's coming perfectly. Now keep in mind, it's about 3 foot deep. That fish may have been sitting in, I'm gonna guess, 2.5 feet of water, so it's shallow. So I had, I'm setting my indicator super shallow. I was running it maybe 2 feet deep. Anyway, great mend. It's floating, and about 10 feet in front of the fish, the indicator goes down. So it's a dink. I mean, like a little 10 or 12 incher. It runs out. I'm fearful that I'm gonna spook this fish, man. Like this little guy is gonna spook this fish. Finally get him in, get him off, make another cast, caught another little dink right in front of him. Like, man, I'm gonna spook this fish even before I get a chance at it. Get another cast, it makes a drift to the outside of the fish. So as I'm looking at the fish, the fly and indicator was to the left of it. It didn't look at it. I'm like, okay. Make another one, make a nice little mend. I get it to the right side of the fish where it was feeding, and the indicator did not go down, but I knew my fly was right there in the zone, and it turned, and I saw the white, it closed, and I set that hook, and it didn't budge. It did not move. I mean, it was like hooking the bottom or a log or a rock. And I thought for a second, did I snag the bottom? And then it started shaking its head. Oh my gosh. And the sun was behind me, so I really couldn't tell how big this fish was. I knew it was a good sized fish. I was thinking 22 maybe. It was hard to see, so it just shake its head. And I'm like, oh, I may be able to net this guy. because it's maybe 15 feet in front of me. So I get my net and I walk up to it. I think, hey, I'm gonna be able to net this fish in the first 10 seconds because it's really not doing anything. You know, some of those big fish, they just kind of waller around a little bit. Well, it did that, and then it took off. And I'm telling you, this initial run, it was, oh man, it was freaking awesome. And hey, I grew up in the Florida Keys. I'm used to bone fishing, permit, snook, tarpon, you know, redfish. I know what those fish will do in that initial run. This really felt like a bonefish. I mean, it was singing. I mean, it was gone. Of course, ran all the fly line out quickly and then gets into my backing, and I'm looking at my backing, man, and it's getting down to close to the end of the backing, and I'm kind of freaking out. I'm running up the river towards it, you know, I'm going as fast as I can, trying to get slack, and again, there's nobody here, there's nobody around, nobody to help me. Running upstream, and wouldn't you know it, guess what? Smart fish, what's it do? Turns right at me. Fast as it can swim, it's coming back at me, man, and I'm like backpedaling. You know, I'm going backwards, getting all the slack in, I'm palming the reel, trying to get the line back in there. Can't catch up, man. I'm stripping line, and it starts running in front of me, and it was so hard to get that slack back in. I just put my rod tip way to the right, laid the entire fly line in the water so that the tension of the water would hold that hook in the mouth as it's running while I'm trying to get the slack up. So I was able to keep enough tension, and it got by me, lifted it up, and bye-bye. He said, adios, amigo. He looked at me and goes, oh, adios. It took off. So now it's running downstream into my backing. Now I'm running downstream as fast as I can. I wish I had like a drone footage of me, because this had to be the most hilarious thing to see. You know, I'm by myself, and if you sped this footage up and put some like Benny Hill yakety sax, you know, the song behind it, I mean, had to be the most funny thing, because I was all over the place. Had to run out in the middle of the river. Luckily it was shallow, because he was trying to bank me, get me into this boulder field and tangle me up, and finally run out there, get my net, and I'm able to get my net on it. And it was kind of hard to get in the net initially, because it just kept flopping out. I'm like, I'm gonna lose a fish right here after all this. So I finally was able to get the entire fish in, and I, you know, trying to lift that net up. I'm like, oh my gosh. I mean, this isn't a fish that's measured in inches, it's measured in pounds. You know what I mean? So I get it, and I walk back to the shallow part, and I kneel down, and I'm just in awe of this fish. It's I mean, biggest brown that I've ever hooked or caught. Well, I think the biggest I've hooked. I mean, I've hooked some out there that I never saw. You know, they were gone, but this guy was just amazing. And I wasn't able to get a ton of video. It's just me, and I wasn't able to get many pictures because I don't want to harm this fish. I don't want to keep it out of the water too long, but I was able to get a picture of it alongside my rod, because I know I can measure the fish based on my rod. So I put it on the bank quickly, took a picture, got it back in the water. I was able to release it on its own. It was still spunky, and so it swam off on its own without me having to revive it. Then I took some video, by the way, after I released it to kind of try to capture the moment. You know, I'm out of breath, I'm worn out. Oh my gosh. And that is why we come to the San Juan every year, several times a year. It was just, it was just magical. It was amazing. And I'm thinking, man, nobody was here, you know, to help me get video or pictures or net or anything. And then it hits me. It's like, this was meant to be. Sorry. You know, that whole time I was talking to Christian, man, it's still so hard. But, you know, I was thinking this was really just meant to be. It was me, it was this fish, and, you know, Christian was there. I wish he was there in person, because he was such an avid outdoors person, and he would have loved that area. Gosh, I'm sorry. It's just, it was such a spiritual, just healing moment, and I was finished for the day. And I go to the fly shop, floating fish, and was talking with Ray and some of the guys there. A couple guides were there at the end of the day. And I say, hey, how to fish, And I showed them the picture of this fish and where I was, and they kind of knew it. And they said, oh man, one of them said, I've been trying to catch that fish for months. And so it was just another affirmation. And I talked to a guide friend of mine there, Jude Duran, super guy, man, just a salt of the earth and super guide. And he said the same thing. I was like, hey, congrats, bro. And we were messaging back and forth. So it was just affirmation to me that was meant to be that day. And yes, the fish was big. In fact, by measurement, it was right at 30 inches. And it was just a massive fish. And it was me. It was the fish talking with Christian. Dad was sick that he couldn't be there to help film or video or to net. So I hope you enjoy the story behind the story of the fish. It's something that I'll never forget. And hey, leave in the comments if you have a similar story. I love hearing about that. My name is Jonas Weathers. You can Google me. You can reach me through Instagram, follow me, Facebook, whatever. I will say that Dad and I have some great fly fishing videos on the San Juan River, and they're instructional, not just another fishing video. Now, nothing wrong with those. I enjoy watching those too. I just kind of like the instruction aspect of this. So check them out. I'll put links in the bottom, or I'll put them somewhere. I'll figure out how to do that when I post a video. And I hope you enjoy it. Man, reach out to me. Let me know what you think. Tell me your biggest fish. Tell me your fish story. You guys have a great day. Hope to see you soon, and tight lines.